right, y'all. Let's... Okay. Let's take this off because this is the wrong one. All right. All right. Whatever. Hey, Jolina. So today we're going to work directly from the workbook. It finally came. Jeez. Amazon takes forever and a day. All right. So first session, we're going to be working through the workbook. We're on chapter 4 right now. Chapter 1 and 2 are already on YouTube. Chapter 3 is going to be up tonight, and then chapter 4 will be up later. All right. For those who are inside of the community, you guys are going to get a one-on-one time with me and other seasoned community members to work through the workbook and like elements of it. For those who have already done like their proposals, their pitch decks, if they're present, then you'll get an opportunity to ask them questions that are a little bit more advanced. This again is a beginner workbook. All right, y'all. This is meant to give you guys beginner frameworks, beginner things that you guys need to consider. It's not the like as in-depth as the funding formula, but if you do this right, then the funding formula is going to be a lot easier. All right. So with that being said, let's get started on chapter 4. And then the second part of this is going to be a grant application that we're going to walk through. We haven't done one in a really long time. I was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and knock that out. All right. Any questions before we get started? And then Jolina, if you want to chime in on any of these points, please feel free to do so. If you want to go live or if you want to come on, you're more than welcome to. Okay. So with that being said, let's see, what can we do? All right, number 4. Chapter number 4 is, the objective for chapter number 4 is going to be your ability to lay out your business model, groundwork for your business, and think about how you're going to make all of this happen, okay? Sorry, my tripod is acting up. So that's going to be the first thing. So we're going to be talking about business models a little bit, okay? We already kind of covered some of it. So if you want to go back and watch chapter 3, I want to say it is, then you'll get more context for what we're talking about, okay? Thank you. So now, let's talk about, do not disturb on. Okay. So now let's talk about more of the in-depth things around the business model, right? One of the things that you need to consider is your business goals. And there is an area within the workbook, because it is a really big workbook, for you to write it down. And there's also notes, a note section in the end of each chapter where you can write additional notes. If you're following along with us in the community, or you're following us on live, which we'll go through these again at some point, right? Especially as the information starts to build on itself. One thing I want you to write down is 5 of your business goals, right? Why this is important. In business, I think in life, period, but specifically in business, if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it, all right? The end of the book, chapter 8, is it chapter 8 or chapter 7? I'm going to make sure I'm accurate on here. Chapter 8. Okay. In chapter 8, we're going to go over, because we're on chapter 4 right now. So we're already laying the groundwork for the later parts of the book. But we're going to actually roadmap how these goals are going to be accomplished. But you need to know what your business goals are to even begin with. Why that's important. And it's not necessarily a SMART goal, because some goals take longer than other goals. All right. But it's going to be a goal nonetheless. What are your objectives? What do you want to do? Do you want to increase your revenue? Do you want to work on your client acquisition? Do you want to work on your employee acquisition? Do you want to, what else could be some goals? Maybe you have a revenue goal. Maybe you want to make a certain amount between now and the first quarter of the year, okay? Write down what your top 5 goals are, because the next thing you want to do is really outline how you're going to get this started, okay? And I like to do this exercise. People think this is just like, oh, it's just goal setting and it's not that important. But it is, right? Because people need to be able to conceptualize these big, ambitious goals that they have and break them down into smaller pieces so they seem less intimidating, if that makes any sense, right? So we want to break down the magnitude of these objectives. And by doing this exercise, you get to actually see the pieces that are going to be a part of this ultimate goal. And I only want you really working on 5 at a time. And when you do that, it also could position you for being able to successfully answer some of these grant application questions, right? Because they're going to ask you things like this. And they're going to ask, and when you're answering these questions, you want to have an informed plan on how you're going to accomplish this, because those funds might be able to help you accomplish this. But this is just a fun foundation for chapter 8, okay? So how will you get started? That's not a trick question. That is a legitimate question. What are you going to do to get started? For example, if we are building out a product, maybe, no, not necessarily. So for the workbook, I want you guys to list 5 goals that you want to work on, especially as they relate to your funding goals, right? So let me give you an example. Great question though. Or thank you for the clarifying question. So, for example, let's say one of your goals for funding, especially for funding, is to work on getting inventory. We're not going to tell them that we want inventory, because they're not going to fund you if you're already not able to take care of that by yourself, unfortunately, right? But let's say you're talking about inventory, and one of your goals is to be able to, not even inventory, let's say you're building out a new product, because that's how you'd most likely position it, right? You're building out a new product, you're building out a new offering. I'm going to say that some of those funds will be used for being able to create a beta test version of it so you can test it out in the marketplace, right? So how you will get started will help you outline that and talk about that in the application is what I'm suggesting. And let me know if I've clarified that or not, okay? So you're going to do that for all 5 of your goals. So if goal number 1 is, I want to create a new product, I want to develop a new offering, I want funds to develop this new offering so that we can test it. And then when we're testing it, we'll figure out in that place if we can validate that business idea or not, right? There are funds for that, especially startup funds, because you really don't want to spend all your money testing out whether this is a great product or not, or whether or not the people that you're targeting are the people that you think you're targeting, and then only for it to end up being a different segment of your market, right? So that would be how you would position that. Maybe I'm in the prototype phase, or I'm in the launch phase and I need money to launch. So how will you get started? You want to outline those different pieces. Every piece of the 5 goals are going to be outlined in the workbook. All right, because we're laying the foundation. This is when we get to chapters 6 and 7, which are the longest chapters, all these pieces are going to come together and it's going to make so much more sense, right? So for example, in one of the next chapters, we're going to be talking about the actual product that you're building out, because this is going to lay the foundation for, okay, I have 5 goals to do this. How will I get started? And then let's build out the actual product itself. All these things grant funders are going to want to know. All these things you should be able to answer before you even start applying. All right. Jolena, do you have any input on that? Jolena is one of the individuals who is a lot more seasoned in this space. She's already gone through the more advanced training. So that's why I want to see if she has any input to put on this, because she's already done all of this work. Nope, you covered it. Okay, cool. Next thing you want to consider is who you're going to have on your team, right? That's going to be super important. The people that you want to help you, you want to start thinking about these things. And like I did this, I tell you guys all the time, like I use these frameworks. Any new business, any new industry that I'm going to look into, for example, I have two immigration clients right now. I didn't know anything about immigration before I started working with them. Like, my parents are immigrants, but I didn't know the process of like naturalizations, the offerings that are available. So when I started looking into them, I needed to go through these same checks and balances, all right? One thing you want to know is who's going to support you, because you cannot do everything on your own. I know it's popular to be a solopreneur. If you are one, that's not a slight on you, but to just start thinking about who you're going to need to build your team is going to be important, because you might be able to get funding for that. There are, like, especially on the state side, we've seen grants specifically for workforce training grants, right? They'll give you money to train people to come into your organization. Period. But do you know who those people are? So think about, and this is why the foundation is important, because once you know what your goals are and you know how you'll get started, now this builds on itself. Think about who you're going to offload this to. So the question is, every single time we have a new offering, we have a new initiative, it's not how am I going to do this? It's who's going to do this, right? We've read that in a number of books in book club, right? There's a business bookshelf. We have a book club throughout the middle to end of the year. And almost every book that we've read positioned it that way. Okay. Who is going to, hi, Wendy. Speaking of immigration clients, she's the one that I'm talking about. She does that every time I mention her. You're going to live a long time, Wendy. Okay. So, building a strong team. So you need to think about who is going to accomplish these tasks every single time you're building out one of those goals, okay? And I would say go into the exercise of just mapping it out, really write it out. Think about who these people are going to be. I know I keep saying that, but like, for example, when I wrote this is to my 10th book. I want to say 9th or 10th book. When I first wrote my first book, I had no idea what the heck I was doing, okay? So I would go into Fiverr, go into Upwork, and just see what different positions are, see what different people are doing. I didn't even know what some of the jobs were that were available, okay? I didn't know that there were people who could go out and just source libraries for you to put your book in. That's a whole job, right? I didn't even think about putting my book in libraries. And just by looking at the jobs that were available, I was able to see who I would need to build my team and get my product out, okay? So think about the different people that you will need to help you accomplish this. Now, what skills will they also need, right? Skills are going to be very specific to your organization. They're going to be very specific to what you need accomplished. So, for example, if they're going to be we have Wendy and Jolena here, right? Wendy is in immigration services. That person should have great customer service. That person should be able to understand the different processes. No problem. They should be able to understand the different processes and the different programs and offerings that are available in the immigration space, right? They also, USIC, that's what I was trying to remember that. I'm like, what is the name of that organization? The USCIS forms. They should be able to be familiar with the USCIS forms. And it would be great if they can speak a second language, right? So those are going to be key skills that Wendy would look for. And if I'm thinking about maybe even a receptionist or an assistant, they should have some background information of that. Jolena, who's here, does not need any of that. None of this. She has a product-based business. So she would need someone who understands formulations. She would need someone who can manage an inventory system. Those are some of the skills that she would be looking for, right? So every industry is going to need very different skills. So map out who you're hiring and then what you need them to do for you to be successful. Because remember, it's not about whether you're going to do it or not. It's about who's going to do it, okay? Just start building that mindset now. All right, this is what I need. Who's going to accomplish this? What person? What is their title? What are their skills? That's what you need, okay? Next, what key skills must your team members have? I already put that there. Okay. That's the continuation from the last page. All right. Now we're going to talk about where you could look for these people. All right. LinkedIn is one of those places where especially if you're looking for high level skills and like well-paid talent, look on LinkedIn. Okay. If it's just things that you can do on a contract basis, I would say Upwork and Fiverr or Freelancer. Okay. Other than that, there's Indeed, there's Glassdoor, there's Monster, there's Remote.co, there's AngelList, and Craigslist. And all of them are listed right here in the workbook. All right. Next, let's talk about employment as a whole, right? We did an entire month on employment. Remember, we work in our businesses. We work on our businesses, not in our businesses. You will be hiring somebody at some point. I hope you do, because otherwise you're going to face burnout. All right. 35, 36, 37, 38, and 39, all episodes, 35 through 39 are episodes about employment, how to hire, how to onboard, dealing with people who lie in their applications, how to test for skills, all these different things. I've outlined them in the book as well. Okay. All of these episodes are just about hiring people, different challenges that you might experience when hiring people, how to onboard your staff and your team, all available here. And they are free episodes. You don't have to pay extra or anything for them. Just listen to them. 5 episodes that I've used as a framework too. Like, I've learned, especially when it comes to testing their skill sets. That's something I'm implementing now, because I will hire somebody and then they'll say they can do this, they can say they can do that, and that's not what ends up happening. Their resume looks great, their credentials look great, the interview goes great, and then I had to fire them in 2 weeks. So, with that being said, I've had to go back into these very episodes and understand what it is to build a team. Not everybody, clearly, but how to build a team that understands my mission, understands my vision, is a team player, and understands the skill set that's required to be able to do the job and accomplish it. Okay. Any questions? Chapter 4 is really short. Chapter 5 is a lot longer, so I'm going to save chapter 5 for another time, because we could probably do both, but it's really long. Okay. Yeah, it's really long. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna save chapter 5 for another time. All right. So now let's look for that opportunity. Ooh. Let's look for the opportunity that we can look through for grant applications. Where's my Excel sheet? All right. All right. Okay. So Sephora has a grant, but actually I can't remember why I can't do that one. Yeah. I did this one for a client, but all right. First, before I even do this, does anyone have a grant application that they want to go through? Verizon. To be honest with you, I don't know how to say your name. Oluchi. I don't want to mess up your names. Correct me if I'm wrong. That application is super easy. Okay. We went through it on Feedback Friday 2 weeks ago, and it's just a bunch of questions, mostly demographic questions about your business, to be honest with you. Like, how long you've been in business, how many employees do you have, if your revenue increased or decreased. I could even tell you the questions if you want. But I will say, if you are going to do that one, it has a requirement for you to go through, what is it? Go through like 2 different trainings or whatever. You can watch the pre-recorded ones. You don't have to go through like a scheduled one. The Verizon, it should be on YouTube. Good question, Jolina. But it's not going to be the most recent one. It's going to be the one that we did months ago. The original Verizon application. This one is a new one. Hold on a second. Let me see what YouTube episode that was from. All right. I don't know how YouTube still doesn't have like a search feature for videos. I have like hundreds of videos on here. I don't know how they still don't have a search feature yet. Okay, so yeah, it's real far back. This is going to be Bank of America using ChatGPT. Dang, I'm in like December. I think I missed it. But let's just go through some of the questions that they have. But I'm telling you, it's really nothing. It's mostly like selecting different options. But the two questions that they did have on 34, I want to say 34 and 35, if I'm not mistaken. Just give me 1 second. Let me open Word. It really is the same questions because I pulled the questions from the previous application and then this one, and it's the same thing. Let's see if Word would open. There we go. And then it was and I can't find it. I think I moved this to my hard drive. Hold on, y'all. But to answer your question, it's a really easy application. There really is only 2 questions where you need to put something in there. Okay. So odd. Yeah, so I have to look for it. Anytime I move something to my hard drive, unfortunately, I go into having to find things. But 1 second, let me see. USICS. You have to look for it. Let me see if her application's still open. If I could even see it anymore. Okay, I found it. All right, now will it open for me? That's the thing. Here we go. I'm so sorry, y'all. Give me a second. Here we go. Finally. Okay, thank you for your patience, because you didn't have to be patient, but you are. All right, so one of the first questions is, it's going to ask you for your name. It's going to ask you for your primary contact information, your website, your business structure, years in business structure, meaning like whether you have a sole prop, LLC, partnership, blah, blah, blah. Years in business, gross revenue for the most recent calendar year, business gross revenue for the most recent calendar year before expenses. And then it's going to ask you what was your business's gross revenue for the most previous calendar. Okay, that's again. This is going to ask how many full-time workers you have, part-time workers, full-time workers you're anticipating hiring, part-time workers you're anticipating hiring. What is your primary industry? Age, your age, gender. Does the business owner identify as LGBTQ plus? Excuse me, does the lead business owner have a disability defined by the AMADA? Is the lead business owner a veteran? Is the lead business owner Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin? What is the race of the lead business owner? Do you and your business identify as any of the following? And then it's going to ask you like a list of different classifications that you can identify as. Not to say that you're certified as them, but do you identify as them? So for this particular client, I put woman owned and minority owned because she is a woman and a minority. So then they're asking you, are you certified as any of those businesses? Which is to say that you went through the process. So many questions to identify with, right? I have to run to class, but I'll be back if you're still on. Okay, no problem, Jolina. So then this is asking about certification. So certification is a process that you have to go through a credentialing body. So if you have not gone through that, done the paperwork, some have fees. So if you have not done that at all, then don't put yes for that question. So if no, would you like to be certified? I put no for that client because she's not. And then it asks you what kind of certifications you want. And then it lists the same certifications as before. So I put minority owned and woman owned for her because when you are certified, it gives you additional opportunities, right? Or there are opportunities designated for that group of people. So what is the primary purpose of the grant request? I put wages and benefits. So there's a list of different primary reasons that you could be requesting that grant for, right? So here's a pro tip. If you do not know what you want to use the money for, when you're going through this application, look at the different things that you could possibly have selected, right? Write those down. Have a response for those particular things. Here's why. And that would just be a working list. It's not necessarily the end all be all, because almost every grant application is going to ask you, what are you going to use the money for? right? So if it's a grant opportunity that specifically helps you with wages and benefits, you will have an answer for that question. Yeah? Okay. So then select the one that best describes your business location. And then it asks you if you have a commercial lease or if you own or blah, blah, blah. So it's going to ask you that. 27, or the next question is going to be, how has your revenue for the past month compared to the same time last year? So it's going to ask you if it increased, if it decreased, by how much. You should know those things, right? If you're doing your books, if you have good record keeping, that should be a very easy answer, because you should just be able to pull up. And yes, I want to rank on you guys a little bit. You should be able to pull up your financials, look at them, see what quarter one looked like, quarter two looked like, quarter three looked like, quarter four looked like. We're in quarter four right now. What did quarter four of 2022 look like? You should know that. Did it go up? And then if it did, subtract last year from this year, right? Or subtract this year from last year, and then you know the difference. Or you can look at the difference in the percentages, right? So if it went down, you can do the same thing. Subtract last year from this year, or look at the difference, right? So you'll know. You should know. There should be information that is readily available. Yeah, let me show you guys my dashboard if I can. I don't play. I know where every dollar is going at all times, okay? I need to know, period. It's my safe place. It's my comfort. It's what makes me happy, all right? So it gives me this little pseudo sense of control in this world, because I need to know, all right? You know how like you'll hear celebrities talking about how, somebody stole millions of dollars from them. I'm just like, how? How did your accountant steal? Were you not looking? Like, how did this happen? Now, I mean, I know you out there chucking and jiving, but you got to look and you got to know. You understand? Like, you got to really be informed. If you don't understand how that works, go to Udemy and take a bookkeeping class. That's what I did, okay? A couple years ago. Just take a bookkeeping class. That's it. And you'll understand how to make that money move every single day. You should know what your ending balance is. The next morning, what your starting balance is, what you have to work with, what's coming out of your account, how much you should set a goal for every quarter. If you're not meeting that, you should look at what's not helping you meet that. Like, for real, y'all. No BS, okay? I'm just looking at my, I'm going to my dashboard now. Hold on. Great. Now it's asking me to two-step authenticate it. I don't want to do that right now. All right, let's look at our drive. And then my computer keeps telling me I'm running out of space. Come on. Sorry, y'all. Yeah, it's not letting me in because I just removed all the cookies on my computer, and now it's asking me to two-factor authenticate everything, and I'm on the phone. So I'm not even going to go do that right now. But we can walk through how to prepare your dashboard if someone cares, honestly. I'm not doing it if nobody tells me they don't want it. But anyway, what are the other questions? What else? All right. How did you hear about that grant? Is what are grants only for? No, grants are also for-profit organizations. Yeah. Right. So what else? Okay, so the other question that actually has a fillable space is they're asking you general comments or any other information about you or your business that you want to share with us. All right. This question is kind of open-ended because it says general comments, right? I will talk about your business, what industry you're in, any traction that you've had, talk about what problem you're solving, talk about your industry. And of course, this is within whatever the word limit space is, right? Talk about your industry. You can talk about the market need that you saw that made you start the business, because I asked about you, right? You can talk about the clients that you serve and what problem you're solving for them. I kind of said that already. You can talk about your vision. You can talk about your mission. Emphasize any of the products and offerings that you offer and how they're beneficial. Because a lot of grants are community-based, or they focus on community and impact, I will talk about the impact that you're having, plan on having, do have, how you impact the community, how you serve the community, how you are integrated in the community. All answers that I think are sufficient for this box. Any questions? You're saying, I'm not sure I understand the question. You said, what are you, whatever. So every time you go through a grant application, I encourage you to pull the answers, the questions, and pull the answers that you give. Okay. So someone asked, it was Oluchi. I want to say that's how you pronounce her name. And sorry if I'm not pronouncing you correctly. But Oluchi asked to go over the Verizon digital grant application. So I'm reading through what the questions were because we went through it already. We completed it for a client. It's one of the ones that are coming up soon that has a deadline, if I'm not mistaken. So I was just telling her that it's easy because there was a lot of demographic. Okay, thank you. I was telling her that there was a lot of demographic questions on the application, and there's only 2 questions that are making you fill in something. So that's one of the questions. Those are all the ways that you can answer it. So if you guys have any questions about that, please feel free to ask, right? The second question is about, it's about community. See, I told you, they always ask me about that. So please describe any ways you're connected with your community through your business, right? That's something that's going to be a theme. Community is a theme. It's going to be important between now. Watch, mark my words. I have this recording. I'm going to make sure I clip it and it's going to age well. Between now and 2026, you're going to see an uptick in community work. Communities, right? The emphasis on communities. An emphasis on community impact, community work. Different types of communities are going to be in the forefront. You are going to be part of a community. What communities are you a part of? How you're impacting, how you're contributing, how you're integrating. All of those things are going to be important. That's perfect, Erica. So if you are already in the community-based space, that's perfect. What I would suggest for you is something called the theories of change. The theories of change will allow you to measure your impact. Excuse me. So let's say, for example, you have one input, like it's based on inputs and outputs, right? So if you say that I am producing, for example, a training on grants, right? It's not just a grant. It's also, matter of fact, no, let me give you an example. So for example, cohort 1 of the funding formula training, the recipients or the participants in that class or that cohort were able to get funded, right? Their businesses were able to expand because of whatever they were doing with those funds. So that's one point for change, right? I'm able to measure how this one training not only helped them, but helped their business, right? Then the second point is proceeds from that training went to an organization in Haiti, right? That organization, so that's another point. So with our nonprofit partner, they were donated to, the organization won a grant. That grant is going to help them fix a flour mill that they had that was broken. That flour mill serves 5 women, which also expands to 30 members of their community. And because they're going to be learning as part of the funding requirement, they're going to be the organization that won has to teach them how to build what's called agroeconomics. So not only how to make flour to serve their own community, right, but how to make flour and mill for people outside to purchase. So this one cohort did all of that. That's how that works, right? So your theories of change is what's the input, and when you put that one thing in place, how are the different outputs affected by you having this one thing, right? And you're going to do that with every single one of your community outputs, because that's how it should work, right? For example, Jolena has a product, right? But when she produces her product, she has an aeroponic. I don't know how to ever pronounce that word. That's not on her or me. That's on the word. Okay, that's what I'm blaming it on. She has a garden, one of those tower gardens. She's working with different organizations in the community to help with food insecurity, right? She has a product-based business, right? If she wants to integrate more into the community, she could, and we've discussed this on live, so I'm not telling her business. She could work with other local manufacturers to make sure that the money stays within their community, right? Because she could get her cans, her products, her whatever from China and save a lot of money. She could. But if she does it local, there's going to be a markup, obviously, because America, everything is just more expensive when you get it from America. But also, she is keeping the money within the community. In the process of starting a clothing line, any advice? It depends on your goals, y'all. Like, I appreciate the question. I appreciate the engagement. But that question is so broad. It's really hard to answer because I could tell you a number of things. But if you tell me what your goals are, or maybe even what you're looking to fund, if you're looking for funding, if you niche down the question for me, I could help you a lot better, right? Because I could tell you about manufacturing. I could tell you about sourcing. I could tell you about sustainability. We could start talking about price points. We could start talking about a bunch of different things. So it's really hard to answer that question in an informed way. Okay, a silk pajama line. And yes, I'm looking for funding. Okay. I'm going to tell you right now, one thing you need to do is listen to episode, I'm going to tell you right now. If y'all can't tell, my mind isn't always online. Okay. All right. I'm going to tell you right now which episode this is and why I think you should listen to it. Her name is Alyssa Millette. She was the individual who I interviewed on the podcast. She has a swimwear line, but she also works in grant funding, which is great for her because she's able to win. She's done over 6 figures in funding because of the framework that she understands, right? So the reason why I want you to listen to it is because her swimwear line also has a nonprofit arm. Her nonprofit, she talks about it in the episode. So again, I'm not exposing her business. She talks about how your ability to purchase a swimwear piece from her is for her to be as long lasting as possible, so it doesn't create waste in other places. Because one of the industries that experience a lot of waste is the fashion or like that when clothing or materials are manufactured, right? So episode 42. 42, 43? Which one is this? 48. Episode 48. So she owns a for-profit, nonprofit. And when she's going through some of these applications, some of the things that they're looking for are ways that you are ethically sourcing these materials if they are being sourced, right? How they're being sourced. One thing that she mentioned that stood out to me is like understanding how the issues in your industry and how you're contributing to eliminating those issues. For example, the materials that you're using, right? If you're sourcing silk, or how you're sourcing silk could be one way that you innovate. Innovation doesn't have to be a machine. It doesn't have to be technology, y'all. It could be that your industry has a problem with finding silk that is ethically sourced and you are not unethically sourcing it. It could be that. Right? That's Alyssa's. She traveled. She met this organization. She's getting the materials from that location. And they are helping her with building a sustainable swimwear line. That's how she's innovating, because she understands her industry so well that she understands the problems and the risks inside of her industry, and she's able to mitigate them. And her being able to mitigate them gives her an economic advantage. She's done 6 figures in grants. That's one thing you can definitely do. But also remember the problems that are there. You want to not be contributing to those problems, right? So ethically sourcing them, but also making sure that you're not contributing to the waste. So how are you disposing of these materials? Maybe, and this is just an idea, and if you use it, I want credit, okay, Key? And everybody else here is my witness, all right? Maybe you take all the scraps from your materials and create blankets for kids in a different country, right? Or they're just a way that you're repurposing the materials so that there's not waste. They're being used, right? They're not going into a landfill somewhere, which is what Alyssa was saying was the issue in the fashion industry, right? Or the swimwear industry, or whatever industry where there's garments. So think of those things, right? Maybe you can start an organization for moms, because it's not going to be a ton of materials, right? So you'll maybe create new, for new moms, when you could partner with a hospital, right? And you could donate these blankets that you create out of scrap material. Then there you go, right? There's so many opportunities, y'all. Y'all just got to think about what, and it doesn't have to be one point for point. It doesn't have to be, because I have a, she said, and thank you, I want to definitely lean into helping homeless shelters because we were homeless. There you go. That is perfect. And it's perfect because you have a strong tie to that. There you go. When we first moved to another state, my mom was a single mother. There you go. Because you have a strong tie to that actual story, it makes it even more impactful that you want to give back in that way. And that's amazing. That's what they're looking for, y'all. That's what they're looking for. It doesn't have to be you're creating silk pajamas. What does that have to do with homelessness? You are the centerpiece. You're the person that has a strong emotional pull to it, and this is how you want to contribute. That's amazing. I'm getting chills thinking about it. All right, y'all. So, that is how you would make your community impact. Okay, Key? Any questions before we go? Any questions? No, don't do that. Well, go ahead, tear up. Why not? It's great. I'm telling you. It's funny that you're saying that. And I'm Key, make sure you follow me. I'm going to follow you back. Reason why, right? I have a lot of clients in real estate. And over the years, they have been begging me to get into real estate, but I refuse to do it. I'm not going to be another one of the people that, they hate to pay rent to. I don't want to create a renter's market necessarily. If it's ethical, I'll do it, right? But I don't want to just buy up buildings. I don't want to kick people out their house. I don't want to do it that way. That's not how I want to do it. And I finally found a way to, I'm going to be the one to eliminate homelessness. Remember I told you that, right? So it's crazy that you're talking about homelessness because that's one of my objectives. I'm how do we keep people in their houses? How do we get people in houses and then keep them there, right? So that's going to be the problem that I'm solving. So please, there's probably something for us to figure out, and I'm open to partnerships. It has to make sense, obviously, right? But if you're going to be working in homelessness, then that's something that is very near and dear to my heart. Not because necessarily I've ever been homeless, but I understand the need for it. And if I was like having a child, I couldn't imagine being in that position. You understand? I'm telling you, it's one of those things. It's one of those, like, I believe everyone should have the basic human necessities: food, shelter. Food and shelter. Period. It really is not that hard. It's really not that difficult. Okay? Food and shelter. Basic needs. Shouldn't have to worry about where you're living. Shouldn't have to worry about if you're going to be able to feed your kids or not. And that's it. That's it. It happens. Let me tell y'all something. All right, let me tell you how fast. Key, you're on it. It literally to the point where there's about to be a 57% increase in foreclosures. Where are these people going? If you couldn't pay your mortgage, how your credit is probably jacked now. You probably can't afford to rent, or you're not the greatest candidate for credit as a renter. Where are these people going? Come on. Like, one thing, you lose a job, you have, and most of the time it's medical issues, long COVID. Okay. So if I'm telling y'all, it's real out there, and it's about to get realer. There's about, like, I study the trends when it comes to the housing market. We're really about to go into a crash, right? Soon. Which is why I'm trying to get on top of it now, so that these people don't have to be relocated. You know what I'm trying to say. Okay. I have a program for teens teaching computer IT, need funding, feeding homeless also. All right. Let me tell you something. What I did was, because I realized so many people were trying to kind of fix the framework around their business, I opened the funding formula training to be a rolling application and not cohort style anymore. If you guys are really interested, and when I say really interested, don't apply if you're not. Trust me, don't waste my time. I don't want to waste yours. Okay? If you guys are really interested in learning how to position your businesses for consistent funding, that application is available in the link in my bio. It says the funding formula rolling application. Okay? You guys have missions that are needed. Kids need to learn computers. Kids need to learn technology, because we are in the technological age, especially us, all right? So that's something that I would look into once you fill out your application. Because, for example, the last cohort, the cohort 2 that just signed up, there were hundreds of applications. I only picked 6 because I really go through everybody's application. I'm learning about your industry, how fast it can grow, what the opportunities are, whether it's trending or not. And that's how I make that selection process. If you have an online presence, right? Not even just, you don't have to be on social media posting constantly, but do you have a website? Those little nuanced things that you think don't matter when it comes to funding, I'm looking for those things, right? Because I don't want you to take this training if you're going to have to go back and do a bunch of legwork. If you're positioned and you're ready, that is the training for you, okay? People don't realize one mistake can literally turn your life upside down. Literally. Yeah. It's insane. They want you to have 3 times the rent, and rent is expensive. Not only is rent expensive, but now they're trying to, which I understand though, because there's certain restrictions on how many people you can have in a house. But most people, like, let's say the restriction is 3. If there's 3 grown adults, like, it's going to be crazy. I don't want to get into all this, like, the details of it, but it's going to be insane. Let's say there's a family of, like, 2 families that have 6 kids, and the 2 adults try to come together to make the rent threshold. They can't do that because most places will not let 6 people live, or, you know, the total number of people live in that place, because it creates a septic system issue. They're only built to accommodate a certain number of people. It's a lot. All right, y'all. When I tell you it's a lot, it's a lot. Yeah, you have to have a website. You have to. All right. All right. Any questions before we go? Like literally anything. If I need more clarity, I'll ask. But any questions? Yeah, no problem. That's why I be here. I'm here all the time. My DMs are open. Whenever we get on live, grab your workbooks so we can finish working through the rest of the chapters. We've already done chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4. When can I do 5? Because it's long. I'm going to see what day of the week we can do 5. If you're on the email list, you'll know when we're coming live. But I'm going to do 5 this week because it's long. 5, we're going to be talking about deciding which product to build, how you know your customers are going to engage with that product. There's a matrix for each product that you build, and I want you guys to build out that actual product matrix to talk about whether it's high effort, low impact, how to decide whether or not this is a product that you need to build, okay, or you need to develop. Whether your customers are really going to engage with it, right? So we have a product matrix. We're also going to look at your competitors because your competitors should be informing the products that you develop, all right? And we're going to have questions around that too. So there's a link in my bio for this workbook. This is a soft cover. It's available on Amazon, all right? We're also going to be going through some grant applications. I know I haven't done it in a while, but your girl's been busy trying to eliminate homelessness, okay? So now that things are a little bit more calm, we have like the board together, we have all these like pieces in place, then I'll be on board more. No pun intended. I'll be around more often. All right, y'all. Any other questions for real before we go? All right, I'm going to take that as a no. No problem. No problem at all. I'm going to take that as a no, and I'm going to go. All right, y'all. Y'all be safe. Y'all have a good day, and we'll talk soon. Okay?